Hello everyone. I was going to put a video up before, but this took a little bit more priority because it's a little bit more recent and I kind of want to hop in because this is something I really want to talk about. You've seen the title. I want to talk about this article that the Washington Post put on their website about Post Malone. It's a little bit confusing, but more importantly, I looked at the H3H3 video on it. I already read the article. H3 is a little bit biased for Post Malone because they know him. And the article, if you've ever read it or know anything about it, it is extremely biased in the other way. So I thought, why not have someone in the middle come in and talk about this, because this is something that's a little bit interesting, and there's a lot I want to say about this. And let's just hop right into it. There's an article, Washington Post put it out. The author of it, Jeff Weiss, whatever, put an article on the Washington Post, and it is titled, Post Malone is the perfect pop star for this American moment. That's not a compliment. So right off the bat, the title is coming at Post Malone with guns a-blazing, and it does not slow down for the rest of the article. It just keeps going. He digs deeper and deeper into Post Malone, tearing him apart. And if you look at it from a certain direction, yeah, it's pretty funny. He compares him to looking like something that came out of a primordial swamp of nacho cheese. Things like that. And to me, it kind of makes me a bit upset because I don't think that's newsworthy topics or something that's newsworthy at all. This really isn't something that the Washington Post needs to put out. And we can go through it a little bit. I don't want to go in detail because it's a long article and there really isn't any actual points made. You can honestly summarize this article by saying Post Malone looks disgusting. I don't like his music. His music's repetitive. He's a trashy guy, and his fans are trash. And if you watch the video that the Washington Post put onto their YouTube channel, you'll see that it's almost like they're trying to orient it in a political way. Any little political bias that this article has is comparing him to Republicans in maybe one paragraph of the 14 or 15. So it really isn't left-wingers coming at Post Malone because he's a big guy. That's not what's happening here. If anything, it's just some guy who's upset at this music and decides to go after him. For example, he compares his music and says there's no swing or groove to it, as if every type of music needs to have a swing to it, which is completely strange in an article that's supposed to be, criticizing Post Malone as an artist and not what he thinks he should be doing. The weirdest thing to me is that he doesn't actually make a point or any valuable point. He just keeps going at him and berating him for the same things, on his lack of singing, when he's drunk at a festival, how he's not singing to his capacity, how his music is bland, and using strange excerpts from lyricism to try and prove that he doesn't have any good conscious music, which is strange because you can pull a number of really deep and thoughtful emotional lyrics from his music, but obviously he decided to choose the ones where he's talking about fast cars, women, and drugs. Strange. And I'm sure not a lot of people will fall for this in this day and age, and that's why it's so annoying, because I could just imagine someone going onto the Washington Post, seeing a new article about this Post Malone character that they may not know anything about, and then just getting a huge hate rant. A complete hate rant that is just unjustified, in my opinion. It's strange to me that this is on the Washington Post, which gives itself credit for being trustworthy and dependable for news and any kind of world issue. So when you have a post about why Post Malone is just some big bad guy and not good, not a good artist, everything about him sucks and he looks bad, it just doesn't work in this kind of day and age. It almost looks like this should just be on some random guy's blog. I don't really care about the author that much. I know he's done some stuff. I saw it in the comments on a thread I was looking through. I don't want to give him credit or give him publicity for this. I said his name once, and I'm just going to say that I don't think this is really necessary on the Washington Post. I don't want people to go look at more of his work, because, it could be dependable, but this right here is not good news or a good journalism piece. This is a really sad approach to how someone's angry at an artist because they don't live up to their expectations. Something along the lines of that, and it's really confusing to me. And it also kind of aggravates me. What's the point of writing a hate piece on the Washington Post about an artist if you're not really going to bring up any real facts other than opinion? This author is really, really good at comparing posts to just the funniest things, calling him the most absurd things that I will give him credit. They do work. They are pretty funny and they do tear away at his character. But still, calling this news is laughable. And it almost doesn't become funny when you start realizing that this is on the Washington Post. Aside from that, I don't think Post Malone deserves the hate that he gets. I know he said some things along the lines of he compared hip-hop music to not really being emotional or deeper in the lyrics. He said that if you really want to listen to something that's a little bit more conscious, down to earth, and more thought-provoking, don't listen to hip-hop. And in my opinion, I disagree with that. I'm not going to attack him for saying that. If anything, he is perfectly fine if he wants to say that or express that. Because of the tracks of his that are actually like deep and substantial with lyrics, those are the more slow and country-esque songs. And it's really hard to describe Post Malone's discography because of how open and wide a range that he goes through. You know, he's known as hip-hop. He has a lot of hip-hop tracks and he does a lot of co-produced songs with hip-hop artists. But he also does some country, some pop, and a whole lot of other things, all in one strange group of music. I mean, look at Beer Bongs and Bentleys and compare it to Stoney. Stoney's a little bit more acoustic with it, but then you see Beer Bongs and Bentleys as more of a pop hit album. And it's really hard to say it's a pop hit album when you have songs like Stay or the Jonestown Interlude, which, even though it's not really a full-length song, it still shows that he doesn't really stick to one category as an artist, which is perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that. I guess what I'm really just trying to say is that he's being very consistent in his argument. Since none of his music that's deeper and conscious is actually hip-hop tracks, it makes sense that that's how he'd feel about it. You know, he grew up in Texas, and he said he, you know, gives a lot of thanks to Bob Dylan, and he was in a heavy metal band as well. That when he does more, you know, emotional or deeper thought-provoking music, that it's not actually going to be under the hip-hop alias. It's going to be more of a country or a folk song or an alternative track. So, to me, although I disagree because we have artists like Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole and a plethora of other artists that are just putting their heart and soul into music and telling beautiful stories that almost, you know, they almost change your opinion about an entire album. If a song can do that, I think that's an amazing way, you know. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Post Malone's albums are extremely deep and complex with the lyrics. In fact, I think Post Malone is kind of untapped potential for the deeper lyric market, which, you know, I don't personally always look for deeper lyrics, and I do enjoy Beer Bongs and Bentleys. It is a huge step up from Stoney, in my opinion. It's really appealing. A lot of the tracks are just fun listens to, and that's all it really has to be. Sonically, his music sounds kind of the same, but he also does switch up the style a lot by doing other themed and genres. His albums really aren't that cookie-cutter straightforward, and I appreciate that about him. You know, they can be pretty similar to hip-hop albums, you know, the run-of-the-mill albums, but then you get some stranger tracks from the different genres that Post Malone has experimented in and does really well. As for his live performances, you know, this article says that he went to Posty Fest and didn't enjoy it because if there was no, like, festivities there, it was just music, drinks, maybe some concessions. He didn't even go in that in detail. He just attacked it because he was trying to find things to throw stones at, which to me is not a good sign of journalism that isn't biased. And I know all journalism is biased in some way, shape, or form, but that doesn't mean you have to attack some artist just because you disagree. Some of the points were just so absurd, I don't even need to bring them up. In fact, I think everyone should probably read this article if you're that interested. I know he's a very big artist, and a lot of people will be interested in seeing what this journalist has to do to critique, or why they want to critique him. In my opinion, most of his points aren't valid, and the entire piece has no actual point. In the end, he just compares him and calls him like a loser, and that's it, and just says he's not as big as he thinks he is, even though he's on the top of a lot of charts. I mean, he beat out Michael Jackson's Thriller, and that's like the first point he makes in this entire article. I mean, as for the point of this video, I just want to bring awareness to this kind of stupid idea that we need to just rip down these artists because they're big. Like, I don't think Post Malone deserves any of this hate, you know. I did say he said some pretty stupid things, but not like Kanye West has ever said something dumb. Things like that just make you wonder why people bring so much attention to these celebrities that just do their own thing. You know, Post Malone is just a symbol of just happiness. He really is just a character that just likes to be happy, does what he wants, gets drunk, smokes, whatever, and he lives his life to how he wants to. If he wanted to stop making music, he would. And that's just something I don't like about this article. like I said before, you know, Kanye has said some pretty questionable things on Twitter and on the news, and he does get criticized for it. However, you know, what has Post said that really is so attacking or, you know, offensive? It's just a strange article to me. I'm not a fan of this at all. I'm sure you can tell. A little bit upset, but I mean, in the long run, it's just some guy, I'm going to just call him like a nobody. He really isn't anything important. And this author thinks that he has some kind of authority just because he's on the Washington Post, that he can just tear down an artist that doesn't really deserve it. Call his music bland. Okay, sure, it can get bland. I think he's like a pop star artist. I'm not going to say like I'm a huge fan of Post Malone, but I enjoy his music, and I really do think he's a talented artist. Obviously, you can't avoid criticism. You know, people are going to criticize the big artist because that's what's going to get the clicks, and that's what's going to bring in the money. So, do I blame either side of this argument? No. Do I think it's just a really stupid argument to bring up? Yeah, I don't think this is worth anyone's time. However, if you are interested, definitely do read this article. If you hate what I said and you want to come at me in the comments, go ahead. I'm not going to, silence you. I'm fine with criticism as well. I just don't think it was just in this situation. And I just wanted to talk about it because this is something that kind of matters to me, Artists don't really deserve it, like Post Malone. And I really do look up to him as a figure of carefreeness, He doesn't take shit from anyone. And that's something I respect in an artist, and that's kind of why I think I like Post Malone as much as I do. So, through this video, sorry I'm a little bit tired. I just had a lot of food, and I'm a little bit bloated and kind of hard to think, so this might not be See? This won't be the most easy to edit video. I'm sorry if it's a little choppy and whatever, but I just wanted to get this out of the way. I just think discussion is fun. So, thanks for stopping by. If you like this, let me know. I will talk about more music news, but I have a bunch of different videos coming out very soon, so I hope you're excited. And yeah,